And greetings. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here live and on demand. And back here in studio. And we hope to stay. It's supposed to be fall around here. I mean, it looks like fall. It is absolutely beautiful outside with the foliage and the coloring. But I mean, it's cooled back down. We hope it stays in those fall temperatures and the wasps will go away. So I'm chancing it today and hopefully for the rest of the week here alongside Todd Erzin and Aaron McIntyre. You guys should know, yes, the process of finding the new home for our studio is underway. In fact, I go and visit our first facilities tomorrow. And you can bet your rectum that I am going to absolutely vet the pest control history and processes of any prospective building that we are moving into. That is happening. I am never going through something this unprofessional ever again. Never happening. Never. Never. And I mean...
People say things.
Never. Right? We are brought to you by our friends over at Birch Gold. As you watch more of the managed decay and you think, man, something's wrong when only 22% of Americans think the country is heading in the right direction, right? And that's when you have these kinds of times why you want to look at our friends over at Birch Gold. Gold has been the hedge of protection smart and savvy people have been using for centuries, literally, against government debasement schemes. Steve, what's a government debasement scheme? Exactly what your government is doing to your economy as we speak. That's what it is. All right. So you can learn right now how to change into your existing IRA into a 401k or IRA in gold. All right. And the best news, you don't have to pay a penny out of pocket to do so. Just text the word Steve to 989-898. Text Steve to 989-898. Get a free info kit on gold when you do. There's no obligation, just information on fortifying your savings before they fortify another election. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and thousands of happy customers, you can trust Birch Gold too. Just text Steve to the number 989-898 for your free info kit today. Text Steve to 989-898. And I'm heading to Dallas here in about 10 days for more of the Blaze's election night coverage. We're going to have a ton. I mean, we've got everybody coming into Dallas for that. So another reminder that if you want unbiased coverage, if you want people who are not going to call Arizona before the polls close, and we'll call BS as I did on election night 2020 in real time for the Blaze, on the BS that ended up consuming us for the next 4 years. Now's a perfect time to get a subscription to Blaze TV if you're not a subscriber already, because we are offering our biggest discount yet, $40 off an annual subscription. So if you love the show, you love our network, you want to support what we do, you want to make sure that you don't have to get up one morning and find out we're gone from your favorite so-called free platform because of censorship, go to Deace40 at checkout right now at blazetv.com/Deace. That'll give you the big discount on the new subscription price here at the Blaze. blazetv.com/Deace. Use the code Deace40 at checkout to join the movement with us. America deserves the truth. You deserve the truth. Blaze Media, we're here to deliver it. Deace40 is the code at checkout when you go to blazetv.com/Deace. All right, coming up on the show today, speaking of truth, we'll be joined later from the weekly prophet of woe and lamentation, Daniel Horowitz. And then also, starting at the bottom of the hour, we're going to play our little game known as Buy, Sell, or Hold, where you determine what we're going to be talking about. But before we get there, let's begin as we always do with Aaron's rundown of what happened while we were away.
What happened while we were away, brought to you by The Joy is Gone. Here is yesterday in Democrat land.
Sounds like if I said this 5 years ago, you'd lock me up. We got to lock him up.
I think part of what is important in this election is really not only turning the page, but closing the page and the chapter on an era that suggests that Americans are divided.
Elon's on that stage, jumping around, skipping like a dip on these things.
I don't understand how we got so toxic and just
so divided and so bitter, and I get why sometimes people just don't want to pay attention to it.
And then to cap the day off, Jeffrey Goldberg at The Atlantic, no doubt slaving away for years on this story, which he just happened to finish 2 weeks before the 2024 election, claims via anonymous sources Donald Trump told staffers he was annoyed he had agreed to pay $60,000 for the funeral of a murdered 20-year-old U.S. Army private named Vanessa Guillen back in 2020. The story was quickly debunked by Guillen's sister, Guillen's attorney, then Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, and other former Trump staffers. Learning Chinese today, today's phrase is smells like desperation.
闻起来像绝望.
In other news, a journalist went to a shooting range with a Democrat Senate candidate, and you'll never guess what happened next. This is what happened next. Missouri Senate candidate Lucas Kuntz was joined by former Congressman Adam Kinzinger for a round of dudes being bros at this makeshift, very short gun range, and were joined by a couple of journalists, one of whom, the senator claims, caught a bit of shrapnel on apparently a ricochet. Who could have seen that coming?
Not me.
It is confirmed now Donald Trump will join the Joe Rogan Experience this Friday. Rogan still has the largest reach in the podcast market in the United States. The Los Angeles Times will not endorse a candidate for president for the first time since 2008. That's according to a report at Semaphore. The LA editorial board issued presidential endorsements from the 1880s through 1972, only returning to the practice to endorse Obama in 2008. Since then, they have exclusively, of course, endorsed Democratic presidential candidates. Back to Kamala's interview with MSNBC. She says, screw your religious exemptions when it comes to the issue of baby killing.
What concessions would be on the table? Religious exemptions, for example? Is that something that you would consider?
I don't think we should be making concessions when we're talking about a fundamental freedom to make decisions about your own body.
And finally, this from the Babylon Bee. You're at the wrong town hall, snaps Kamala at Citizen trying to ask her a question. And that's what happened while we were away.
That's good. You're at the wrong town hall. Oh, that's very good. Aaron's Montage brought to you by our friends over at realestateagentsitrust.com. At least until mid-January, it remains the Let's Go brand in real estate market. So dare not venture forth, my good sirs, into such an endeavor without an agent you can trust. Where would you find them? Right at the website where the name says it all. Realestateagentsitrust.com is where you can go. We will hook you up. We've got a broad database of agents with vetted and proven track records of success all over the country. And we will connect you with one of them per your liking. And a lot of times, it's going to be somebody from the same audience right here within the Blaze as you. So you got values in common too. And they will get you to the finish line of where you want to go, whether you want to go across town or across the country. So realestateagentsitrust.com, you want to get in touch with them, and the name says it all. realestateagentsitrust.com. All right, let us now venture forth in discussing a few of the items that Aaron had in his montage, and it really ties into a post on X from Megyn Kelly I just responded to. Because, Aaron, the way you couch that the campaign of joy is gone, is correct. The campaign of joy is gone. And he likes German generals. He says Nazi things. He's unstable. And Megyn Kelly asked the question, and I responded to it. I think she asked it rhetorically, but I took the initiative to respond to myself, nevertheless. And Megyn asked, is this all they got? Yes. It is. There is this, and baby killing is all there is. Trust me, if they had Are You Better Off 4 years ago, guys, they'd run on that, right? Sure. They would. Well, they'd still run on the baby killing and he's literally Hitler, because that's just inherent to who these people are, right? But if they had a third pitch that they could throw to the batter, they would. And they can't. All of the issue polling has been, really the issue polling for them has been upside down for several years. And this is one of the reasons why I thought we were going to see not just a red wave, but a red wedding in 2022 that never materialized. But there's not any kitchen table issue that they can run on. They're upside down on all of them. You know, we keep pointing out, and I know what we do, and it's a good shtick, and I'm not saying to stop doing it, but the whole time, you know, and what's funny is a lot of times she's being asked this by her own corporate media that keeps bringing it up, like The View asked her this a couple of weeks ago. Hey, what's different from you than Joe Biden? What would you do differently, right? You know? And so it's, it's funny that they're the ones that keep asking her this on their own side. They keep putting her in her defense, and I will not say that very often, but in her defense, there is no good answer for her to give to that question. Everybody realizes this, right? I mean, if Kamala Harris says, well, here's some things I do differently, well, what's the follow-up question, guys? Why haven't you done them? You're already in office. You can do them now. And then you're left with that that awkward exchange with Brett Baer. Well, you know what I mean. No, I don't know what you mean, actually. She can't answer. She cannot answer that question. Any answer she gives is, as Bart Simpson once defined, an oxymoron. Damned if you do and damned if you don't. I mean, there's no answer there. None. They don't have a record. 22% of Americans think the country is on the right track. 22%. And they probably all have postgraduate degrees, or they own a Subaru in a cul-de-sac with a coexist bumper sticker, and she's knocking at your door and is asking for the manager. That's the 22%. All right? Everybody else is like, oh, hell no. Doesn't mean, by the way, they love him some Donald Trump, okay? And that's why, because not everybody else in that 78% loves them some Donald Trump, this is all they have to run on. They don't have anything else, which is why I've said repeatedly now, the stroke of genius of putting Trump on these long-form podcasts. I saw people tweeting about it today. I didn't have time to find the link myself before I had to hit the gym. But if it's true, and I just did the thing in the Trump era you're never supposed to do. Don't ever start with if true. It's just don't ever do that. Okay. Assuming that don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Suppose. Fair. Suppose Gallup is reporting that Trump's favorable is now 50-48 favorable. I mean, I don't think Trump's had an overall favorable guy since 2015, probably. Has Trump had an overall favorable since he talked about Megyn Kelly bleeding out of her whatever?
Probably not.
I don't think he's had an overall favorable. I think that was September of 2015. I don't think he's had an overall favorable since. So suppose that's accurate. You can chalk a lot of that up to these long-form podcasts that he is doing. And continues to do. And now he's going to do the biggest one of them all, Joe Rogan. And now news is breaking that Kamala Harris again refuses to go on Joe Rogan's show.
She is doing Brene Brown's show, though.
Who is that?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. Good answer. So they don't have anything else to run on. There's nothing left. And that doesn't mean, though, that this thing is over. Because lurking there in the background, and guys, we were just talking about it right before we went on the air. Lurking there in the background, Maricopa County, Arizona, saying, I don't know, guys, it might take us a couple weeks. One of the richest counties in the United... You guys ever been to the Phoenix area? That's Maricopa County. One of the nicest, wealthiest counties in the United States of America. It might take us longer than it takes El Salvador to count these votes, guys. Now, in fairness to them, given how Trump's surging in the polls right now, they don't have any clue how many votes they're going to actually need. So it may take them longer, Todd, to conjure them up. I'm sorry, to count them. Wrong C word. To count them this time. Okay, but that is still lurking in the background. Nothing substantive was done about it for the last 4 years. Lots of people built massive engagement farms, wringing their hands about it and bitching and moaning about it. Lots of money was raised to stop the stealing from happening. No Krakens were ever released. So, we've talked about this on this show for the last couple of years. Nothing substantive has been done about this. Nothing. The polling is still close enough perceptively that you could justify stealing it if you wanted to try. I agree with what Todd analyzed last week, that the margin of cheating is definitely lower than it was a few weeks ago, and it continues to shrink. But we're not outside of it yet, by any means. So I would say because the Blaze is going to basically make me. I mean, I could hold out and refuse, but then they would ridicule me and hurt my feelings for being gutless, and it would be true. So I will, for their sake, based on their request, make an official election prediction, and I will unveil it on the show here next week. What's funny is Todd suggested I take at least one state I was going to forecast red and make it go blue, just as a handicap, basically, to account for their ballot harvesting machine. And I did that, actually. I already did that. I already did that in the ballot in the map that I will unveil next week. Well, Steve, we still have 10 days to go. Yeah, but 20% of the vote, if not more, is already in. I mean, a lot of the die is not just cast, it's being casted as we speak. But in terms of the environment up here, where ideas get conveyed, perceptions are determined and formed, we're winning. I don't think there's any question about that. It's the structural environment down here. I just need to see us beat that before I can grab the Red Auerbach Tennessee just beat Alabama cigar, which I wouldn't know how to smoke anyway. Like some of the Tennessee fans last weekend, actually. I need to see it. I need to see us beat that. But it is very clear from what we are seeing up here above the surface in their own behavior. The campaign of joy, gone. Some of the old Trump era tropes of, did you guys know he's literally Hitler? Did you know this?
It's been made clear.
You're telling me now for the first time.
Indeed. Breaking. Spoiler alert! They're recycling tropes. They're out of issues. They're not behaving and communicating like people who are doing well and think things are going well for them. There are ominous headlines within their own media. There's a headline from Politico this morning. The clock is ticking on Kamala Harris. So up here, man, you know what? Up here, I'll just tell you, I was just communicating this last night with my pastor back and forth. Up here, man, I'm feeling good. Okay? I'm feeling good. It's what lingers underneath the surface, though, that I need to see it. I need to see it. Gentlemen, what are your thoughts?
Todd, didn't you say yesterday when we were talking during a legit poll or not, that you think you kind of have this hypothesis / theory, maybe just hypothesis, that early voting, people kind of see that as harder to mess with? Did you say something along those lines?
Well, yes, and I think they're going by gut feeling on that. I'm not saying I think that's
Trump,
sure
by the way,
not,
has said yesterday he is going to vote early. Yeah. Trump said that yesterday. But go ahead, Todd.
I saw what I think is a concrete idea yesterday. I can't remember if it was if Will came up with this himself or he was retweeting it. Will Chamberlain at the Internet Accountability Project, who's a good follow, and he's been a guest on the show a few years ago. But essentially, I think this is a concrete idea. Voting early, especially if you're in a place like Maricopa County, Arizona, Georgia, the 3 Rust Belt states that everybody talks about, is a really good idea.
No lines, all that kind of stuff.
No lines, and you're using Democrat voters as essentially a human shield, because they are accustomed on the other side to racking up massive margins in early voting.
That is a fascinating
And then,
analysis.
oh no, on election day, pipe burst. Oh no, the machines aren't working on election day.
Yep.
So if you're living in an area...
Or Pennsylvania, it's late, we're all just going home.
We're just going to go home.
Yeah.
So they have to have everything working really smoothly during early voting because they're accustomed to running up and racking up massive margins during the early voting because they recognize that most Republican voters, at least in recent history, well, really most of my life, vote on election day because that's the way it actually should be. But they're used to that. So I would say if you're in an early state, especially in the areas that I just mentioned, if you're not already early voting and you are going to vote, you should vote early just to avoid any election day shenanigans.
That is an interesting analysis by Will Chamberlain. Todd, do you have any thoughts on that at all? I find that interesting.
Well, I understand it, and I also resent it at the same time.
So basically, we're plotting out to dilute their own sample, even if it does cannibalize our vote. Even if it does cannibalize our vote, the value of diluting their own sample, and then also assuring that there aren't any shenanigans of, as you mentioned,
that's the main point.
On the back end, cannot then also, depress our vote.
Yes.
Yeah.
But also, Aaron, your point is good. Also, are we really assuring anything? I mean, if those are staffed by Democrat operatives, who knows how deep the fix would go in? I mean, I don't know.
I want to couch this, and I think you both would probably assent to this. I'm grasping at straws in the dark right now.
Yeah.
This is why.
I mean, I voted yesterday, but only because I just like I was in 2020 when I had to vote early. I have to be in Dallas for the election. So I voted for Trump yesterday. But I can see some merit in this theory. I'm sorry, Todd, go ahead.
Yeah, there's some merit. But I don't feel good about how things are going, and I don't think we're winning on ideas. And when we're talking about machinations like this is win or lose. Almost every paradigm has exploded. I mean, we're not. The church is in utter disarray, and not just amongst liberals versus conservatives, amongst so-called conservatives who have all manner of different opinion of right and wrong and civic engagement and things like that. I think this is a bottoming out of the left, people hitting a pause button. But I think, we are not, the idea winning game has not been good for the GOP for a very, very long time. And that's what we need to reconcile no matter who wins or loses here.
I mean, we're in a broken social compact. And this is life in a broken social compact. Whether it's a business partnership that's gone sour and you're contractually obligated to it, so you got to write it out and figure out what can happen, whether it's a marriage and one party refuses to work with the other to repair it. I mean, this is what broken social compact looks like. It looks like this kind of chicanery and counter chicanery because the ties that bind have been undone. There are no value commonalities. There's nothing covenantal happening anymore.
Right. And that's why the overconfidence that I think, and listen, Megyn Kelly largely has been doing outstanding work, but there's just kind of like giddy laugh track overconfidence. It just shows we're way too comfortable and we don't truly understand how much trouble our culture is in just because we still have a fair amount of wealth to kind of paper that over. Folks, we are in deep, deep trouble. All of our foundations are rotten.
I would also be remiss if I did not mention Barack Obama standing up there yesterday and bemoaning the divisive polarization of politics that, frankly, he is maybe more than any other figure in my lifetime directly responsible for.
Why wouldn't he try that again? He's never suffered any consequences for it. That's the thing. Why wouldn't they try to cheat harder than before? Even though
well, apparently they are, because they're telling us up front it's going to take them 2 weeks to count the votes of one of the richest counties in the United States of America.
Overconfidence right now is so stupid. There's been zero consequences for open borders, for transgenderism, for COVID, for folks. They hate us. They're going to keep trying. No lessons have been learned.
I mean, I was building a national platform during his presidency, so it's all still very fresh in my mind. And I mean, to be told having more people on food stamps than the population of Spain was a bad idea, the reply to everything was, well, you're just a racist. Mm-hmm. That was just the reply to everything. You're just a racist. That there could be no possible reason whatsoever to disagree with their policies other than racism. From bitterly clinging to your guns and Bibles to Jeremiah Wright. I mean, the open and not just as a rhetorical flourish, but as a fundamental argument. Because, the idea, Rush used to always talk about being a racist, misogynistic, xenophobic, homophobic bigot, just by being a Republican of any stripe, right? Okay. that pre-existed Obama. Otherwise, if that bouillabaisse was not there, and Obama could not have emerged from that eternal sea, right? So, I mean, shall we say those clouds were already seated? Nevertheless, the level of precipitation that came from said cloud seed under his time and under his direction was unlike anything we had ever seen. Unlike anything we had ever seen. And just to watch him sit there and to do so, I mean, it's not sincere, but just it comes across as really, he doesn't lack this level of self-awareness. You realize this. You know that he doesn't.
He's gaslighting you.
So he's just gaslighting you. Yeah. And he's really good at it. But to watch that yesterday and to see that clip go viral, I have a lot of memories of that era. And there were a lot of moments like that. No, you're not saying what you're saying. You're just a racist. And the problem that they've had since he went away as the face of their side is the rhetoric has remained the same and even been dialed up all the more, but they lack his panache. They lack the human touch that he has with people to gaslight you and then make you nod your head in assent to the gaslighting, Todd.
It's a level of confidence that goes to show what I'm saying about we're not winning on ideas. And we are far from winning on ideas. We have cult of personalities in all directions. And the real battle of the ideas has to be begun by the church, reframing conservatives moving forward, because it's not going to... There's way too many people on the right who just think that the old ways of doing things, talking about what it means to be conservative... Listen, can we all agree yet that that's...
No,
it's not that the ideas...
We obviously cannot.
The ideas... It's not the ideas of conservative, but the whole package. It was a failure. It was an utter failure. We have got to accept that.
What's interesting about Barack Obama, one, he is by far, and I'll just speak from my lifetime, he is by far the most effective president that I have ever seen. Maybe the most effective president, probably the most effective president since Ronald Reagan.
For sure.
You could make a case even further back than that. Most effective president. He had a personality, persona, presence back when I was in high school that was so different and unique and engaging than anything that we had seen in politics, at least in my early childhood lifetime. And I remember going to the straw poll back in 1990, whenever Steve Forbes was running. I remember that was the earliest memory of politics that I have.
So 1999.
1999.
Yep.
So he was so different. The year is now 2024. And the only people, he had the persona, the talent to reach people that would not otherwise be reached. It's not that anymore. Yes, he is the most effective. Yes, most consequential president of my lifetime. But he's boring now. He just is. We're used to all of the things that he said. The only people that he's reaching now are the sycophants on that side.
People he was already going to reach.
He was already going to reach.
Yep, I agree.
And that's just... It's incredibly ironic that a guy that effective, he rode the White House. That was before he was elected. He said he wants to fundamentally transform America. He was elected on that. He was the most effective president, most consequential president probably of my lifetime. And now on the left, and really across the board, he's just kind of ineffective other than reaching people that would already be voting that persuasion anyway. What does that say about the discourse in this country? One, they've sprinted to the left, I think. Mm-hmm. They've absolutely sprinted to the left. But the notion that he's just boring to the rest, I don't know. That might be a good thing, but that might also just mean that a lot of Americans who are even tuned in, and that's not a lot of us, are just kind of...
Yeah, it's our move now, because we thought we won the battle of ideas post-Obama with Obamacare.
Correct.
Oops! Not so much. The Republicans bought into it.
And then they kept it. Right. All right, let's play buy, sell, or hold when we come back. So our friends at Deace Medical want to make sure that what we continue to see, and we heard from our good friend Dr. Molly James, who was down there in North Carolina for about a week and a half, and we heard from her on Friday about the efforts to still dig out there and the supply chain issues that they're still having there. All right, so just another reminder to take as much ownership of your situation as you can, have control of as much of your own agency as you can, and partners like what we have with Deace Medical can help you do that with the Deace case. You can get some of the most important antibiotics ever made, and then also expand your Deace case to things you specifically need or a loved one specifically needs as well with their broader menu of medications. Just in case that can never happen here, happens here again, as it keeps happening over and over again in recent years. All right, so, and by the way, I should mention, you can also get ivermectin in your Deace case too. All right, use the promo code DEACE, my last name, DEACE, promo code DEACE, my last name, for a discount on your case at jace.com/DEACE, JASE. Jace.com/DEACE is where you can go. That's jace.com/DEACE. And then also use the promo code DEACE in order to get the discount. All right? Are we ready to go for some buy, sell, or hold?
Yes.
Let us play. Now, shall we play a game? We shall. We shall play buy, sell, or hold. Aaron has the submissions courtesy of all y'all. He has selected the ones we will consider on the show. We'll get through as many of these over the course of the next almost hour as we can. And then what remains, we will address in the overtime later today for Blaze TV subscribers at blazetv.com/Deace. And don't forget, Deace40 is the code for the big discount right now if you want to subscribe. Code Deace40 for $40 off. And you and I, Todd, are going to determine, are we going to buy that once it is proffered? Are we going to sell it once it is suggested? We are permitted to hold, but it is considered rather gutless to do so, to not take a stand, to not declare where you come down on any said issue. So as a penalty for desecrating the dude code by demonstrating your gutless in such a public fashion, you're going to have to be the third wheel on Tim Wall's Lindsey Graham date night. You're the third, brother. You're the caboose. That's you.
No? No, whatever gray area was there, you took away when you said caboose. So no.
All right, Aaron, let's go.
You know, I had something lined up that was a little lighter to start off with. I've nixed that idea. Not in a good mood today. This is from America PAC. That's Elon Musk's PAC. The U.S. national debt, this is outstanding public debt, has increased by $473 billion over the last 3 weeks. Buy, sell, or hold. We can just keep doing this into perpetuity.
Sell.
Really?
And here's why I'm going to sell that we can keep doing it into perpetuity, because our military is showing its ass. Remember, my monetary theory is that we're not on the gold standard, nor are we on the Federal Reserve standard. We are on the military standard. And that as long as you cannot step to us by crossing our borders, well, as a formal army, let me say.
It's unraveling already.
Yes. All right. As long as a sovereign nation state, you cannot, as a formal army, step to our neighbors, we can keep printing this as long as we want to. Because no one's there to call the note in. And we just keep rolling it over generation after generation after generation after generation. That's what we've done now for going on a third generation. However, in an era where the military seems more concerned about its DEI hires and, drag queen storytime hours than finding lethal killers. Who's the veteran? Is it Virginia?
Hung Kao.
Yeah, I pointed this out. All right. If we're going to go down that road of making ourselves vulnerable and feeble and project that, then you increase the odds that one day someone might say, I'm your Huckleberry. Let's find out. Oh, maybe you can snuff us out. Maybe you can still kick our ass, but think I'm going to call the bluff this time. I think this time we're gonna go through with this thing and see what you got. And that's a double whammy now. We have a double whammy of Marxism via the welfare state, which is what's causing all the debt, and now the cultural Marxism infesting in the institutions at the same time. And you increase the odds that one day someone decides to see just how solvent that military standard still is. That's why I'm a sell.
I'm buying. There's not enough people who can even imagine that scenario. I think they're drunk on this. At every level, in every party, at every demographic. I don't believe that there's still too much adult thinking in your analysis, Steve.
My bad.
Right, next, here's the fun side that I was going to start with. Uncontexted Dace 2 Electric Boogaloo. If Steve was a comic book superhero, his name would be the Pumpkin Spice Apostle. And these would be his top 5 villains if you're not watching on Blaze TV, if you're listening later on demand or on Blaze Radio Network. It's a posterized version of Steve, like a comic version of Steve.
First of all, it's a great photo.
Yeah.
I like that rendering a lot.
Number 5, these are your top 5 villains of Pumpkin Spice Apostle. Number 5, Brutus Buckeye.
I like it. Bye.
Number 4, Wasp Fauci.
That seems like a mixed metaphor to me.
Fauci in the form of a wasp.
This whole thing makes me uncomfortable.
I'm going to sell. This seems like those two things should not be combined. Like I love macaroni and cheese and pizza. Macaroni and cheese pizza is not good. Yeah.
Number 3, the Magalomaniac.
I could go with, yes. Yeah. Yeah. Like I am never going to align with the, what's that? Who's the nutter of Florida? Who am I thinking of?
Loomer?
Loomer.
Yeah. I don't want to. I don't want any part of that.
Out there
just
pretending like it's January.
Yeah, just an absolute, complete, total nutter, man. Just a cultist nutter loser. No. So yeah, I'm fine with that one.
Number 2, Ming the MRSA.
That's excellent. And for those of you that remember the Flash. All right. That is Ming the Merciless from Flash Gordon. And the absolute cheesy Flash Gordon movie that they turned into a rock opera when you and I were kids, where Queen did the soundtrack and still had one of the coolest album covers of my childhood. It was bright yellow because Flash Gordon's colors are red and cardinal and gold, and it was bright yellow and had like an embedded Goss font of red of Flash Gordon on that album cover. I freaking loved that album, man. I listened to it constantly as a kid. All right. So Ming the Merciless was the great villain of the Flash Gordon universe. So that one is very catchy and very well done. I will buy. That's great. I like that one.
And number 1, just Lindsey Graham.
4 out of 5 are great. I will tell you though, I wouldn't. You can't do Pumpkin Spice Apostle is too long. You just go with Spice. It's just Spice. That's the name. I'm Spice.
That violates every page of the dude code to say, yes, I'm Spice. My goodness. Self-awareness is totally dead. Expect nothing else from the show today.
We just discussed Barack Obama being amazed at the divisiveness and polarization in American politics.
Just
so
remember,
yes, self-awareness is dead. You're
meme
correct.
away, America. He said it. Just call me Spice. That's great. That's just awesome.
True Spice does its work in secret.
All right. You ready to move on?
Yes.
Next, we go to Brian Snyder. The modern evangelical church has been selling indulgences on a scale that is far more widespread, but much more subtle than the days of Luther.
I love this analogy. I think this is, wow. That's, I mean, brother, Peter is that guy's name?
Brian,
I'm sorry. That is, how did I get Peter from Brian? My bad. Not even close. You know, we were just talking about Lindsey Graham. Anyway, moving on. So, I mean, that's a theme. That's a theme statement for a book. What you just said there. I mean, I could write a book on that. That's how good and profound that is. Someone could write 250 pages or more on the theme and the narrative of what you just said. Because of the level of reductionism that has gone on in the evangelical church. And the gospel message has been reduced to a series of outcomes that allows for you to live a better life here rather than assure you of having life where it actually takes place forever. So, brother, that's very profound. I will buy. That's brilliant.
Yeah, bye.
All right, next up we go to Fedigator. Yes.
But brilliant.
Fedigator says the percentage increase in the black male vote for Trump will equal or surpass the percentage decrease in his white suburban female vote, solidifying his 2024 victory.
I will sell because I think one of those things is possible, but the population of one is way higher than the other. That's why. Meaning that it's not a 1-for-1 ratio. Okay. And it also matters, again, as we keep saying, it also matters, again, where those voters are.
That was going to be
even though, I saw some of the clips now. So now, okay, if you want to sell me on the Brothers Be Flippin' hearsay in April on Fox, I'm not buying. You want to send Trump into a barbershop and let me see for myself how he interacts with people, and then I get to look at it myself. Even if Trump were to pick up several more points of black or Hispanic men in the Bronx, okay, so instead of losing New York by 18 now, we're going to lose it by 14. You see what I'm saying? Or 13, okay? The Karen voter is everywhere. In every state, red and blue, swing, non-competitive, everywhere. So it also matters, at the precinct level, which is where the hard numbers of votes are actually counted. Where is that increased turnout of black men at? Is it in Charlotte, North Carolina? If it's in Charlotte, North Carolina, it matters a lot, right? Okay. If it's in Fulton County, Georgia, it matters a lot, right? If it's in Wayne County, Michigan, it matters a lot. See what I'm saying? Okay. But if it largely is contained in places we either cannot lose, which is what Daniel found when he looked at Trump's growth of black male voters in 2020, that a lot of it came from red states like South Carolina that have high black populations but are already culturally pretty conservative, right? Or if a lot of that growth now is in states where we're still not going to win, like Illinois or New York, it also matters where. We don't have to ask where on the affluent liberal white woman in the suburb vote. They're everywhere in all forms of electorate. So that's why I'm a sell.
Selling as well, same reason.
John Baxter says the Wednesday after the election will be the most watched buy, sell, hold segment ever on the Steve Deace Show. I doubt we're going to have it that day, are we?
We definitely need to let the audience have a say, for sure. Even if we just do the one segment at the top of the hour, and the first hour is our own analysis, but we have got to let the audience have some input on that conversation.
Yeah,
I mean, with all that pent up frustration and energy and everything else over the last year plus, for sure. So, okay, I'll buy. Yeah.
All right. Richard Thought Criminal says Steve secretly wanted to join in the skull chant.
For those of you that don't know, that's like the big war chant at Minnesota Vikings games. All right. I am going to commit, since I've already committed one dude code violation by calling myself Spice. I mean, at this point, I'm just...
You committed all the violations by calling yourself
At this point, I might as just lay my soul, my T-level bare, okay? I don't know what the skull thing means. Do you guys know what it means?
No, it's some sort of...
Is it like a Viking war?
Scandinavian
chant?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I will tell you, they do... The atmosphere there for their games was really cool, man. Really cool. And they do this like pre-game video where before the team comes out, on the spirit of the Viking warrior. It's very well produced. It's really well done. It's a gorgeous stadium. There's no bad sight lines. And the horn. I mean, it's, I've been to way more collegiate environments than pro because I used to also cover college football professionally for a job. But from a pro standpoint, it's pretty close to a collegiate environment. I mean, in terms of, especially when the team is good, how much they're into it and everything else. That stadium is first class all the way. Just really impressive environment they have there in Minneapolis.
Okay.
Next, we go to Snarky T. Smuggler. Trump will win a decisive victory in this election, possibly the most decisive win since '84.
Sell.
Let me look something up here while you explain why you want to sell.
Because we don't...
Is he meaning overall or by a Republican?
Overall.
Okay.
I don't even think we know what...
She, and I think it's a she.
She, sorry.
decisive.
So GW won
means.
2000, 271 to 276. That was very close. 2004, GW won
286 to 251.
Yes, and then Obama won it by a lot in 2008.
Yeah, I don't see there's any way Trump surpasses what Obama did. I mean, Obama won Indiana, which is just damn near impossible for a Democrat to win.
Yeah, 365 to 173.
Yeah, Obama won Indiana, which is, I mean, impossible. Swept every single swing state and had 365 electoral college votes. I don't see that happening.
Even if it does happen, like here's where my decisive means I will be perhaps even more pessimistic if he wins, like whatever the max is, because it will show that all manner of people just like decided not to be the crazy gaslighting excuse make. I mean, what it won't make sense.
Meaning you're going to wonder, where were all these people all these years?
What were you
then?
doing this whole time? That's that's disconcerting to me, because it's not, suddenly we sobered up, we're smart. Are you going to have faith that people are just ready to be adults now? Because I'm not.
That's fair. On the other hand, man, you can only wake up when you wake up either at the same time, So, I mean, it's just, I look back on it now and ask myself, how did I ever let myself go from being a decent athlete in high school to 400 pounds? And why didn't I address this when I was much younger and it was much easier to build muscle? And, and here's the thing, if I keep wallowing in that, then I'll never actually get up and do what it takes to do something about it, And so you just finally, everybody has their own breaking point, you're hopeful that if people are suddenly waking up, that's what it indicates. That's what you're hoping that it does. That's a lifestyle change, but I can't blame you for your pessimism there at all.
I mean, yeah, if you gave him everything, every close state and Virginia and New Mexico, we're only up to 340.
And by the way, they are spending money in the New Mexico Senate race.
Yep.
The Democrats are. So that's not typically a place where Democrats go to spend money late when they think they're in a confident posture, But like I said earlier, I still need to see us beat it.
Yeah.
I need to see us beat the structural advantages. I don't even know what we call them anymore. Now they're structural advantages that they have, whatever you want to call it, I guess. All right, let's come back. More Buy, Sell, or Hold for hour 2, and then Daniel will join us as well. Stay tuned. Here with hour 2, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. Steve Deace here with Aaron McIntyre, Todd Erzin, and all of you, though hopefully not all at once, can let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox. You can do so by emailing the show, steve@stevedeace.com, DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWe, and Gab. Follow me at Steve Deace Show on X or Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. If you also wouldn't mind, please subscribe to our brand new YouTube channel at Deace Show there, at Deace Show on YouTube. And again, when you hear those of us doing righty media whine, lament, complain, point out all the censorship we're up against all the time, what does that mean? I can quantify it for you. We have 10% of the subscribers on our brand new YouTube page that our old one had. And we're getting just as many views per video. That's what we mean. The math just should not happen, but here we are. So that's why we started all over there. So if you guys wouldn't mind subscribing to the new YouTube channel at Deace Show, very much obliged. You can also, if you wouldn't mind, leave us a 5-star review if you like the show on your podcast platform of preference. Many of you have. We'd love to see many more, so thank you. You can also hit subscribe, or if you tune in via iTunes, follow, and that'll make sure that every time we do a new episode, it shows up in your feed every single time. And this part of the show brought to you by our friends over at Voice of Judah Israel, and we just introduced you to Pastor Israel last week on the show, wasn't it, right? Or was he on this week?
No.
Okay,
it was on Thursday.
Okay, the days, man, as we get close to the election are are spiraling here. But we just introduced you to Pastor Israel last week, and you got a chance to hear his heart and his ministry of bringing the gospel back to the place that gave it to the rest of the world, and that's the Holy Land. And if you want to take part in their mission, they meet both the material needs of the people of Israel and then also the spiritual need as well with the gospel. So they're the hands and feet of the gospel, but then they're also preaching the word of God there as well. The harvest is plenty, but the workers are few. And if you missed that interview, go back and listen to it. You'll get a really interesting perspective on what spiritual life is like there in Israel right now. So let's seize this moment to have that harvest right now. If you want to learn more or support them, you can visit their website at vojisrael.org/Steve. VOJ for Voice of Judah. VOJ for Voice of Judah. VOJisrael.org/Steve. Again, VOJisrael.org/Steve. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, we'll be joined by the prophet of woe and lamentation, Daniel Horowitz. But first, let's get more of your buy, sell, or hold.
We'll continue on with Live Free, who says the NFL recognizes that the overall gameplay around the league has markedly diminished over the last 5 to 10 years. So to compensate, it'll keep adding more national broadcast games. Like most things in America, quality has declined, and the NFL solution will be to increase quantity. I'm totally buying this.
Meaning like going to like an 18-game regular season? Is that what we're talking about?
No, they just keep putting more games in prime time.
Oh, like 2 games on Monday night, that kind of thing?
Yes, and they're going to be doing this incredibly. They're going to be doing this more around the holidays, around Christmas this year. There's going to be a couple of games on Netflix. I think Black Friday, they're expanding into this. I totally buy this.
I will buy. Yeah, I could buy that. Yeah, okay. Based on how you clarified it there for me, Aaron, I'll buy.
I'm selling because that's still too self-aware. There's hardly anybody involved with football, pro or college, who truly understands what's going on. And most of their reactions are just as bad as the thing they're reacting to.
Next up, we go to Clinton Shaw. Trump will energize the pot bros and sports bros to vote for him after his Friday interview on the Joe Rogan Experience, reducing his reliance on the Christian vote.
That will be an effectual outcome, whether it's intentional or not. But, you know, let's also, I think, because these are folks that we interacted with during the primary, and as I said the other day, I am very concerned that on the most viewed platform for the creation and exchange of political content on planet Earth, they are branding Ron DeSantis with this BS. That's what I'm concerned about, okay? That being said, let's not go so far the other way and act like this is a lot of people. It is not. I mean, Donald Trump is going to get anywhere from 78 to 81% of the white evangelical vote. Why? Because literally everybody the Republican Party gets and nominates gets between 78 and 81% of the white evangelical vote. Whether their name is Willard Mitchell Romney, whether their name is Donald J. Trump, they all get that. Now, what we're really talking about, therefore, is not so much the overall percentage, but the percentage of the turnout of the electorate, right? And so white evangelicals have been are usually anywhere from 20 to 26% of the overall electorate. Catholics are usually around 20%. So if the white evangelical turnout is 21 or 22% of the overall electorate, then Trump's going to need the bro-do vote to compensate. If the white evangelical vote is 25, 26% of the electorate, well, then he doesn't. And now we're really talking about whether the bro dudes would give him the popular vote win. So I want to make sure we don't overestimate what the actual, I mean, if there were more of those people, Ron DeSantis would have performed better in the primary. Okay, so you see what I'm trying to say? That let's not go so far the other way that we're making it look like these accounts that are on Twitter, that are pretty prevalent on Twitter, I don't really think actually represent a lot of voters in the macro.
To the extent that this is happening, I just want to be clear. Nobody is more responsible for the diminishing of the Christian vote than Christians themselves.
Correct. Except maybe the last generation of a lot of their political shepherd Christian leaders who kept taking Esau deals after Esau deal after Esau deal, and then finally there's not even an Esau deal on the table now. Yeah. And now you're looking at between Tulsi Gabbard and Elon Musk and Joe Rogan, now you're looking at all you did is just kept diminishing your own input. And, if Trump wins without you, you went up there and published all your ballots on X, writing in Ron DeSantis. Okay. Then I would not expect Donald Trump to be, taking any of your calls moving forward. He doesn't need you if he wins. Now, if he loses, you made your point, but it also came at a great cost because you may be able to blog about how right you were from prison, right? So there's that. You can write your own prison letters.
They have Wi-Fi there now.
Yeah,
so
they do.
great.
Yeah, tablets even. In fact, I know I did a prison ministry interview a couple weeks ago and found out a bunch of prisoners around the country have tablets. So, you'll be able to still probably tune in and listen and get mad at us from prison, But then we'll be joining you soon, if not there first. So there you go. There's always a win, Todd. There's always a win.
Live from Shawshank,
Yeah,
the Steve
there's
Deace
always a win.
Show.
I think if you have your way, I think the first time you'll finally be able to get out from behind the Anon accounts and, say the things that you're saying behind those Anon accounts to our face will probably be behind bars.
Correct.
So.
Like you won't be able to go to the judge and refer to yourself as Florida Wingnut 14. You won't be able to do that. Okay. So that's the ultimate doxing is when they bring you before the tribunal because you dared to not be a communist.
I love, like with instant replay, everybody's starting to come around to my Anon. It's bad. It's bad for the soul. It's corrupting. It truly is corrupting.
I think there's a time and a place where history has shown it is necessary. But I think living a lifestyle of that, you're correct about. Yes.
Yeah.
So Kamala just wrapped up a speech from the vice president's residence, just regurgitating the Atlantic thing that we talked about briefly in the montage. It just blows my mind. After all this time, all they've got is he's literally Hitler and a racist. It still blows my mind. I understand the reasons that you went through. It just blows my mind.
There is another argument that they could make. I'm not going to help them, and I'm not going to bring it up. So after this election is over, if we win, I want Aaron mark this tape and remind me that that there is another argument they could have possibly made. But I'm not going to say what it is right now. And it is an argument that they could make. I'm not saying it would necessarily be factual. I'm not saying it would necessarily be in context. But
maybe more effective.
But it would be more effective. And it's not, when I say could make, it's not in violation of their orthodoxies, right? Like they're not going to do what we did in the primary and attack Trump from the right. You see what I'm saying? That's a violation of their orthodoxies. You know what I'm saying? That, well, you didn't cut taxes enough. Well, I mean, you didn't deport enough people. They're not going to do that. You know what I'm saying? That's just not, they're not going to, so, it's not, there are effective arguments against Trump, but can you make them? Do they violate your own orthodoxy to do so? And then number two, are you, just capable of making them even if they don't? There is an argument that they could have made and could still make, which is why I don't want to bring it up and I won't. That does not violate their orthodoxies. But after the election, remind me of this. And I'll broach that subject then.
This is on the front of why would
in fact,
they
let me
not
type it to you guys in an email right now so I don't forget it.
Why would they not keep doing this? It's worked in the past and there's been no consequences. It should happen no matter what, but certainly if Trump wins. This is the reverse of the New York Post and just making that go away. This is libel. The family has come out. Many people have come out. It's not like gray area libel. It's just libel. They just don't think the Atlantic should not be in existence after this election. It should be sued into oblivion. The gaslighting, propaganda-based press must pay a steep price. What's that guy's name who runs the Atlantic? Jeffrey what?
Goldberg, I think.
Done.
Yeah.
Done. Tampering, election tampering, prison. Done.
All right, ready to move on?
Yep.
Ari Lemueller says, RFK slogan of make fries fried and beef tallow great again would work towards making America healthier again. Also, how great were fries fried and beef tallow? Being a late 80s kid, I don't know.
Oh, man.
Do you guys remember that?
They were so much better. They were the best. And
yeah. Is that an argument he is making? I don't know. I'm
yeah.
not.
No.
He tweeted.
Oh, did he?
Kennedy? Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see that.
He came out. Listen, it's funny.
So his argument is it's not about the fast food, it's about the processing of the food. That's his argument, basically.
Yeah, and all of that. And like with vaccines, trust me, Bobby Kennedy, RFK Jr. and I, and our little tribe of anti-vaxxers are way more nimble about the actual science. The cult is the other side of things. He absolutely has said, if you want to vaccinate your kids, if there's full transparency, vaccinate your kids. But we don't know, and you don't know, and you're a slave to lies and manipulation and fear, and it's making us sick. Same thing. He said, if you want to go enjoy a burger, God bless you. I have no problem with that. But we have evidence that the thing that we thought was bad and we went away from was actually much better for you. We have lived, and Aaron hits on this regularly, we have lived in the upside down in terms of health, diet, nutrition for a very, very long time.
Yeah. Todd, have you ever made your own beef tallow?
I have not.
I have. A couple of times over the last year.
Sounds righteous.
It's pretty easy. And it's good, too. Next, we go to Connor B. A large portion of the Forever DeSantis crowd is an op meant to destroy Ron's political future and weaken the right-wing bench.
I have considered that this is at least some of them. Like if I were, and I don't know Glenn Youngkin. I've never met him at all, So, but let's just say, because you can, I since I got a text about this from a buddy yesterday who's very active in caucus stuff, and I just kept telling him over and over again, I would like to have an election, and I'd like to have a country in 2028 before I even consider this. But just for giggles, for 2 minutes, let's entertain this, okay? And 2 minutes only. Todd, start the clock.
I'll give you one, and you better impress me, because then we're not going to 2.
All right. In every primary, there's a swim lane. You have to have a lane. Okay, and on the Cruz campaign, we defined it as you have to know what bracket, because we were more college basketball guys, you have to know what bracket you're in. You have to win a bracket, okay, to claim a base. Otherwise, you have no base, all right? And it's pretty clear Glenn Youngkin's going to be the Nikki Haley candidate. And he'll have a better record than her. He'll be able to message conservatively better than her. But he's going to be in that bracket. Doesn't mean you can't play in other brackets at the same time, but you have to have a primary bracket that you win, because that's where your primary base comes from, okay? So Glenn Youngkin's going to be the number 1 seed in the Nikki Haley bracket. Okay. Ron DeSantis is probably going to be the number 1 seed in the Ron DeSantis bracket. J.D. Vance is going to be the number 1 seed in the MAGA bracket. And again, there's spillover. There's going to be Christian conservatives that like Vance. There's going to be some MAGA people that like DeSantis. There's spillover to all these things, right? Sarah Sanders is probably going to want to run. And as much as I love Sarah and I've known her for years, I think she's done a fantastic job. Right now, I'm not sure what her bracket is, right? DeSantis and Vance are going to have way more notoriety, way more name ID in both the brackets she wants to play in. Okay, but let's just say I'm Glenn Youngkin. If I want to get out ahead of this thing, man, since I know I'm tagging DeSantis and having some bots out there tagging DeSantis for me as a globalist cuck, which is coming in a primary between DeSantis and Vance on Twitter anyway. I could see that happening. You bet. I could see that being some of it. Sure.
Another argument against anonymous.
And we don't know because of all the anonymity. You don't know who's a bot, who's real. You don't know.
It's not real speech. It's not real speech. Let's stop pretending that it is.
Next, a Florida man says Vance will be a more consequential VP pick than LBJ, Nixon, Bush, or Cheney.
I think we have to sell on that right now. I think he's the best running mate the Republican Party has had in my time as a voter, and I'm not even sure whom I would rank second. I mean, I think he has been outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. But in terms of consequential VP, LBJ became president after an assassination. To some degree, Cheney acted and behaved as a co-president during much of the Bush administration. Mm-hmm. Who was the other name up there?
So we've got
Nixon.
LBJ, Nixon, Bush, Cheney.
I mean, Nixon was VP under Eisenhower, and Eisenhower hated his guts, by the way. I mean, frickin' hated Nixon's guts. So I have no idea what Richard Nixon did during. Given the age difference between the two at the time and how much Ike hated Nixon, I have a hard time believing that Nixon had some I wasn't alive then. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just have a hard time believing Nixon had this pet agenda that he was given, sovereignty over under Eisenhower as opposed to a closet he was probably stuffed in. Okay, so I would just take him out of the list between LBJ and Cheney. So I'll sell because we just don't know. I think, by the way, the potential there is there, though, because of the way Trump delegates. You bet that J.D. Vance, that's why I said all along, if I'm DeSantis, I absolutely take the job. You can be prime minister with Trump as president. Trump had very little interest in the day-to-day machinations of governing 4 or 5 years ago, let alone at 78, okay? So by all means, you could be right when this is all said and done. But right now, I just think it's too early to say that.
Yeah,
but as a running mate, he's way more consequential. By running mate, he's the most consequential running mate politically we've had, I believe, since LBJ gave Kennedy the Southern Democrat vote. Yeah.
Next, go ahead, Todd.
No, I'm selling, yeah.
Matt's collection says if Donald Trump managed to fix the ice cream machines at McDonald's, he'd win all 50 states.
By the way, guys, I hate thinking this, but I saw our buddy Tim Young post this yesterday, and it got me thinking. Do you think there's any coincidence at all that there's an E. coli outbreak in McDonald's in several states 48 hours after Trump gets the ultimate photo op via a local McDonald's in Pennsylvania?
I do not.
Nope. Why is this even a question?
And because you know what because what it means, we're just really willing to break businesses and fake poisoning people. That goes back to the conversation we had last hour about a broken social compact. We can't even trust if the government's going to tell us the truth that because that can kill you, E. coli can. So we can't even trust that, right? So McDonald's has been doing this. They're the OG of this entire industry, and they just so happen to get. I don't remember the last time a McDonald's was hooked up in a safety hazard thing. Can you think of the last one? Was it the McRib like many years ago? I think it was.
No, the hot coffee one, which was farcical to begin with.
Oh, the coffee was too hot.
Yes.
Yeah, I meant like consuming that.
Well, that's why I'm saying the fact that that's it. No, it hasn't.
And so their
like
precautionary process just so happened to break.
Chipotle,
48 hours after Trump uses them for a photo op, seems damn suspicious.
Yeah, once every 6 months, like Chipotle has some sort of outbreak.
Right.
I'm being exaggerative here. I don't remember the last time that McDonald's had something like
it's
this.
Just
you get the random story
timing,
about the toe and the fries every now and then. But something like this, I don't remember the last time.
A multi-state, not even just like one bad strain, but a multi-state. By the way, I was in that. By the way, in case you were wondering, guys.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah, but a multi-state strain of E. coli at McDonald's of all places, which doesn't have to look the other way. They're not some plucky up-and-coming fast food joint. They don't have to look the other way on all of their safety processes, and they just so happen to have a multi-state strain 48 hours after Donald Trump uses them for a photo op.
And all the people who are supposedly very, doctrinaire about all these standards and practices are the same ones that are grooming your children, putting porn in the schools, and telling you that they don't know the difference between a man and a woman. So I'm sure it all checks out.
There you go.
Next, T-Money says the baseball season should be shorter with the World Series wrapping up around the first week of October. Not that anybody asked me, but I'm totally buying.
It can go through October. November baseball is too much. Okay.
Baseball's the same as it ever was. It's the people who have changed. Your attention spans are weakened. You're gluttonous, porn addicted. Baseball's the exact same thing. In terms of the game, the pace, it's a people problem. It's a people problem. You have pornified the sport. You need to be titillated at all times. You need to be watching 5 games at once. It's a you problem. I don't watch baseball. I don't watch anything like I used to. But it's the my goodness, it's not what you think it is. It never is with sports right now. The sports bro, it doesn't make you smarter, and it doesn't make you more ethical ever. Not a one of you, ever.
I don't remember growing up the baseball season going through October on a regular basis. I remember like the first or second week of October.
See, this is the thing. They made it like everything else. It's not. They just added more playoffs. So the argument, it's just too much money. If it works in football, and all you sports bros have been riding that unicorn as far as you could, why doesn't baseball get it? See, nothing you say makes sense.
See, that's why I'm buying, is that I think it should be shorter. It's just too much.
Then it has to apply to football too.
I didn't mean to laugh when you were talking because I actually got distracted because on the screen beneath me, Marionette Miller Meeks is just getting sodomized on the abortion issue for being pro-life when she's not actually pro-life. And I just have to say, I know
that's poetry.
If people in her district like you weren't going to suffer by what's happening to her, I would enjoy it a lot more. Okay, because having known this woman for 20 years and butted heads with her numerous times, I mean, to be sitting here now and seeing her killed for being pro-life when she's not, just can't.
Tell me, based on the campaign she's run, why should I vote for her? If I were in Nunn's district, I would vote for him. He's at least fighting back. He's at least
pushing back on some form of issue. Yeah, I agree. I don't disagree. Yeah, again, not surprised to hear that again as someone who's known the woman for 20 years. Can I go back on the E. coli thing and just let me clarify?
Yeah.
Hey, I sent a message to my family group chat yesterday. Hey, here's the story. Iowa's one of the states. Might want to steer clear of getting a quarter pounder at McDonald's for the time being. So please don't just tempt fate on the possibility that the government told us the truth for once. I mean, I'm not, but I'm just saying, so that's not a recommendation just to ignore it. Okay. The timing of it and the broken social compact that we live in right now. I mean, how many times, just one example, how many times is the good people on both sides, Charlottesville lie, going to be debunked? And yet they peddle that thing out there, at least still once or twice a month on the other side, right? And that's just inherent to the environment that we are in. It just does seem damn peculiar that McDonald's had its safety precautions on lockdown. No one makes more hamburgers in the world than McDonald's does on a daily basis. And they had this thing on lockdown until 48 hours after Donald Trump used them for what might be the game-clinching photo op. It's just damned odd. Could be, but I mean, I wouldn't chance it, but I just wanted to clarify that. Okay, because I would just hate it if someone went there and then got sick. You're right, Dace. That's why I'm in the drive-thru right now. Okay, don't. I just wanted to clarify that. Fair?
Yeah, I was going to say I was getting hungry for a double quarter pounder after all of these photos.
And then a Big Mac on the way home. Yeah.
Next we go to...
You might want to pour some vinegar over it just to kill off the E. coli. Just in case.
Andrew Hawcroft said the non-response of the Southeastern Conference headquarters to Bottlegate at Georgia versus Texas and ACC officiating in general this season highlight that there's a need for standardization, transparency, and accountability in college football officiating.
I love that people think officiating is the problem with college football. You people are hilarious. I mean, even if it's bad, it's your whole thing. It's all a joke. Everywhere. I repeat myself, nothing about your analysis ever is smarter, ever, or more principled or ethical. Yes, that's the problem that you have. The whole thing is a total joke. I'd like better officiating in my pornography. Loser!
As to your proposition, to me, that story is American masculinity or the lack thereof, the state of American manhood on display. So here's a bunch of bro dudes in the audience there in Austin getting way angrier at a pass interference call than they ever have about their kids being subjected to porn in their schools or libraries. And then in reaction to their outlandish behavior, the betas who are actually in charge of the system, okay? Is there something on me, by the way, that just flew on me? Something just landed on me. I just felt it. I seriously just felt it.
I did not see anything.
Okay. Better be on the lookout because I did just feel something land on me, on my head. Straight up, I'm not kidding. The bro dudes who are in charge of said facility, you see anything, Aaron?
No, I'm looking.
Okay. Their job, or I'm sorry, the authorities whose job it is to actually uphold the rules, then just completely cave and incentivize even more of said behavior. That entire thing is just the state of manhood in America on display.
Making my point.
And there was something on my head. I'm telling you. I'm not making that part up. I'm not.
I didn't see anything fly away.
Okay.
There's a camera on you.
I'll take the camera. I mean, you can go inspect Steve's head if you want to, Todd.
No.
Let's go to this. Let's go rapid fire here for the last 3 minutes because I took almost 40 submissions, so we're almost halfway through.
Okay.
Dueling Politics says this election is essentially voting for 1996 Bill Clinton versus Hugo Chavez.
That's another way of saying you're voting for 1990s New York City versus 2024 San Francisco, Minneapolis. So I could buy that. Yeah.
Oh, there's a bug up on the ceiling, but it's not a wasp.
It's not. Okay, so it was something. You buy or selling on that?
The spirit of it, sure, buy.
Okay.
Kent Lenars says, should college football just let me rephrase this. College football should just surrender and become a subsidy of the NFL minor league teams, thus deleting the bureaucracy and infrastructure of the NCAA.
Unfortunately, that would be an upgrade over what is currently
It'd be
ongoing.
way more honest, but just remember what all that means. Oh, abandon all those school colors, all the helmets. You can have your little old team called the Ann Arbor Ass Hats or the Buck Nuts or whatever, but I want go there because and everybody's going like, what happened? What did we do? You did it.
Nothing like Keith Jackson narrating the opening.
Iowa City Drunken Savages
There's nothing in November like when the Ann Arbor Ass Hats meet up against the Bucknuts live on ABC America. Yes. Whoa, Nelly.
Iowa City Drunken Savages. I think that sounds pretty good.
I do. I'd buy that shirt.
Brutus Maximus says the betting... I had a few of these submissions that were just like this. Brutus Maximus says the betting market and polls, which are psyops, are swinging to Trump. They are to set the expectation with the right that Trump is actually winning, unlike 2020 polls. So when they steal it again, they get a real insurrection, not J6, so they can further criminalize the right.
I mean, I don't think you can, unfortunately, because of the time and era in which we live in, I don't think you can dismiss these kinds of things. What's more likely is the people that are the most inclined to play in these kinds of markets are people that are anywhere from Bro Dude to Elon Musk. Like, there's not a lot of... Honey, I've got to work from Zoom today. The guys that play betting markets. See what I'm trying to say? That's not their thing, by and large. So more than likely, it's a bias of the sample that is more inclined to be supportive of someone like Trump and then betting accordingly. Okay? If there's any manipulation going on, it is more than likely that. But I don't think that you can... And by the way, all betting markets are manipulation, guys. Mm-hmm. They're all manipulation. Every single one. They're manipulation. Okay. They're all an expression of either an opinion someone wants you to have or already has.
You could say a lefty is trying to inflate Trump's odds by buying up a bunch of Trump stocks. Well, then to come back to that is, why isn't there any buyback on Kamala Harris?
Like you sent me a text or something the other day, Aaron, about their complaints about how the betting markets are inflated for Trump. And I wrote back to you, they just described a betting market. That's how they all make or all work. But I don't think we can just dismiss out of hand this kinds of thinking anymore. So I'll buy. Sure.
Yeah, this reminds me of the movie The Big Short.
There you go. Yeah. Very well. Yep. All right, we'll come back. Let's find out what Daniel Horowitz thinks when we do. Stay tuned. Well, there's a lot of voter guides in the mail these days, but if you want the ultimate voter guide, that's what our friends over at Hillsdale College are trying to spread throughout the fruited plain. They're handing out free pocket-sized constitutions between now and the election. And also, they'll ship it to you for free as well. So if you want one for yourself or you want to give it away to somebody else, again, the offer is only for a limited time. But this is the ultimate voter guide. It's the U.S. Constitution. Get a free pocket constitution today from our friends over at Hillsdale College. When you go to daceforhillsdale.com, Dace4, F-O-R, daceforhillsdale.com, you'll go there, fill out and complete a simple form. They'll put it in the mail to you, again with free shipping. Get your pocket constitution today from our friends at Hillsdale College at daceforhillsdale.com. Speaking of friends, even though he is a prophet of woe and lamentation, he is still ours. Our colleague and buddy Daniel Horowitz, good to see you, brother. Welcome back to the show. Let's start from here. Current odds at electionbettingodds.com. That's the aggregator of all the John Stott, the NRA researcher in John Stossel, or John Lott and John Stossel. That's their site. It's an aggregator of all the betting markets, political betting markets out there. As of right now, they have. Let's take these one by one and tell me if you're gonna. We'll play buy, sell, or hold with you, like we just played with the audience, all right? So the current betting market for the presidency is Trump, at the aggregating betting market, Trump at about 60.7%. Are you buying that, you selling that, or are you holding it? And then why?
I'm holding it. And I know the penalty, and I get the Lindsey Graham jokes, but here's the problem. We've never had a time like this. Look, if we had no history beyond this year, you would look at both the macroeconomic and political factors and the polling data and momentum and narrative, and you would give it 90% odds to Trump.
I agree.
Right?
I agree. I said before you came on, up here, it's obvious we are winning. Down here lurks this structural advantage that's never been dealt with. And we have no idea ultimately now what margins of chicanery and cheating and that we used to be pretty confident were 1 to 2 points. We have no idea what that margin is now. And so that's why I'm with you. So finish up. Go ahead. Yes.
No, exactly. I mean, look, most polls, even the ones that were more bearish on Trump's chances, have it even now down nationally to like a 2-point game, which is, remember, Trump lost by 2.1 the national popular vote in 2016 and still won. So certainly the polls that have it 1 tied, even Trump up 1, for sure he's winning. You have, and I put more stock into this, the early voting data. And I think if nothing else, the Nevada stuff is real. And you're seeing a picture opening up that Republicans are finally waking up from this sort of low turnout, apathetic model the last couple of times. They're turning out in force. And there's elements of the Democrat base that are not turning up, I think particularly blacks, which is noted in Georgia early voting. And there clearly is a noticeable generational shift of the Hispanic vote. The question is how much. And then you just have the macroeconomic factors where there should be no way Democrats could win this election, right? There's literally
like 22% of people telling Gallup the country's on the right track, when since 1979, any party that's been under 40% has lost every election. Yeah. And
whether it's economy in the abstract, inflation, jobs in particular, most polls have Trump up double digits, where normally that's a reflection of the electorate. So no candidate's going to be more than 3-4 points ahead. This should be the Democrats' Republican version of 2008, okay, where you have an economic collapse, and you didn't have something like immigration where it just demonstrated malfeasance. Nothing is going right. Trump has been kind of quiet, so to speak. I mean, he's on the campaign trail, but there's nothing reminding people in vivid fashion what they don't like about his personality, and instead it's just a constant drumbeat about everything in the country, in the world, the economy, security, safety, prosperity not going right. Now, the problem with all that is 2022 and the adjacent elections, right, where things weren't going right and Democrats still, I'd say nationally held their own, but really in the states that Trump needs to win now, they crushed it. And the polls significantly underpolled Democrats. So that's the question. And I think to put a finer point on it, I think what's clearly happening is this, and I mentioned it last week, it's worth reiterating. I think no matter what, we're going to see a further improvement by Democrats among college-educated whites, and a further improvement by Trump among definitely Hispanics and to a certain extent blacks, maybe a mixture of the pie shrinking, some of them just not voting that would have otherwise traditionally voted Democrat, maybe a few points voting Republican. The question is, which one wins out? In 2016, it was a net positive spread for Republicans. Ever since then, it has been a net loss. Right, that realignment, we've come out on the short end of that stick. And Steve, one more interesting data point that I think lends credence to my theory of what the election hinges on, which is why I'm holding. I think it hinges on that. I do think it's going to be close in either direction, no matter what happens, which might be a disaster. Interestingly enough, if you look at the betting markets, which again is a reflection of all the data on the trends, it's nothing more than that. I'm sure a lot of people lost money on the betting markets in 2022. Let's not forget that. But Republicans are much less bullish, or the markets are less bullish on their takeover of the House, which is bizarre
Right.
because
I was going to go through all three chambers and get your buy-seller hold on that. So
yeah, so let's bring that in.
All right, let's start with the Senate. The current Senate market is 83.3% that the GOP takes the Senate. You're going to buy on that?
Buy.
One thing that has also changed is Trump is still outpolling all of these candidates, but the margins have, even in Arizona. I mean, I would have said a month ago, no way Carrie Lake wins. I might give her 15, 20% odds to win right now.
So
okay.
I would personally sell on that, but what I would tell you is, if nothing else, they get Montana. And I think if nothing else, a resurgence of just, as long as you have strong generic Republican turnout in red states, you got to go with Deb Fischer in Nebraska as much as she's worthless. So if you just want to put an R next to the name, I do think they get 51, and that's before you talk about Ohio
with Moreno or Pennsylvania with McCormick. Yep. Okay.
Or any other option. So definitely buy.
All right, the House they have at 50.2% right now. The markets do. Where are you at on that?
So that's a little bit weird how Republicans see Democrats have the incumbency of the White House. Republicans already have the House. Historically, Republicans have overperformed in the House in the modern era, pretty much in every election relative to the presidency. Remember, this is the body they've consistently held since 1995. With just a few anomalies, whereas the Senate they've had a harder time with. And I think what that's a reflection of is exactly this demographic I'm talking about. It's literally an inverse of the Romney electorate, 2012, where Romney got crushed, but Republicans came away with like 233 in the House, I think. I mean, they had a strong majority. Whereas now it's like, wait a minute, the polls seem to say Trump's going to win, but it's touch and go. They have currently, I guess, based on the election, they have a 4-seat majority in the House. If you look, I don't know if they currently hold it, but based on the elections they won, they should be holding 4-seat majority. So, it should be closer to 60%. They keep it, just a question of, the numbers. But I think that's the point. Republicans now have the inverse of that electorate, where they're doing better with non-whites than they've ever done. So that's adding to juice up the statewide totals that they lacked against Obama. But if you look at the swing districts that are spread around suburbia, it very much hinges on electorate they're losing. For example, everyone's very bullish on Trump in Pennsylvania. I mean, we'll find out. But polls show Scott Perry losing the Harrisburg-based district. Okay, so what gives? Now, I personally, again, I'm going to cop out here. I'm going to hold on the House. But I disagree with the market. I believe if Trump wins, they definitely win the House, because I believe the weakness in the Republicans is that they have nothing to turn out for him and haven't turned out. But once they're turning out for president, and I'm not taking away from Trump, I think, frankly, whoever, whether it would be DeSantis, Haley, Vivek, I think they turn out for presidential now. You get a windfall that plugs the hole that we've been suffering from the last couple of off-year, midterm, certainly special elections. And I think if nothing else, I was worried about a bloodbath, as you well know. I don't know if Trump's going to win. But I think what the early voting does at least demonstrate, even if it does cannibalize some of Election Day, and even if independents, which we still don't know how they're voting, are voting against us, I think at a minimum, it should help us down ballot.
Agreed.
And it should help us with some of these ballot initiatives.
Yep. That's exactly what I said on the show yesterday. We won't know till Election Day or month, whenever this thing ends, whether the GOP for performance in early voting is a cannibalization or efforts like Musk Group's made to find low propensity voters has worked. We won't know, okay? But at the very least, the stuff we saw since 22 and all these the last 2 years of off-year special elections where we got annihilated, where we're barely winning, special election GOP districts that are plus 18, like in Ohio a few months ago. At the very least, it has demonstrated that there's a floor there that we were concerned over the last couple of years was bottoming out, that the floor has kind of been reestablished. I think it's at least demonstrated and proven that, okay? One of the things I said to you, and you were the first person I broached this with in one of our private talks about a month and a half ago, and I've brought it up now to our audience because now I think I'm seeing more and more evidence of this. I think it is possible that this is the normie election that we thought we were going to get in 22. That this is the one, And that's where I thought we were going to have not just a red wave, but a red wedding, that we had the enthusiasm advantage. And again, we did win the generic congressional ballot in 22 by a couple of points. But that next level, low propensity / independent voter that I thought traditionally has shown up in the off-year elections, like for the Democrats in 18, the Tea Party years for us, they would come off the top rope, not having to vote for mean tweets again, and be that that frosting on the cake that is the swing in all these races around the country. That never materialized. And and to me, that's the only explanation for why Trump has polled consistently ahead of the Republican Party this cycle. I think for the first time, you and I have complained, and the data has shown we were right, that he, unlike Reagan, was not expanding our coalition. We were trading the suburbs for rurals, and there's already more people living in suburbs, and they're growing there, and we're losing people in rurals. That's a losing proposition demographically. For the first time, and in his third run, he has expanded his base. I don't think there's much. Now, the Musk stuff, the Gabbard stuff, those are symbols of what I'm talking about. But there is some level of now, whether this is sustainable or not moving forward, I don't know. Like Reagan Democrats were sustainable for a generation, but there is some level of expansion of his base where his brand has now kind of transcended the normal dissatisfaction that these people have had with the Republican Party. I think that's pretty evident. Now, how evident it is, we're going to find out here in 12 days. But I think that is evident now, Daniel.
And I think people forget the big difference is 2022. At the end of the day, Trump was the incumbent. And let's face it, that was an awful year. That was a hard election to win. Now they own it all. Now, the question is, well, what about 2022, 2023? Well, there's two things. Number one, as time goes on, at some point, you would hope the message gets through. And also, I do think if Trump does wind up winning, it would fly in the face of everything I've seen and we've observed very clearly from results for a while. To me, it would point to the fact, again, as I mentioned before, the Republicans don't have a party, they don't have a movement, they don't have anything. The only thing that could ever coalesce is the force of a top of the ticket presidential candidate. Mm-hmm. That would be the one ingredient that was missing in 2022. And hopefully that pulls it up. Now, a red wedding, I don't see. I'm glad to be wrong about that. But Steve, if he does win, I see it more in line with 2016. Obviously, you'd have to throw Nevada into that, which he actually didn't win in 2016. But other than that, I don't see.
By the way, there's a long-time mainstream media liberal reporter out there, John Ralston, who's kind of considered the Nevada guru, and he has been sounding alarms to Democrats about what he is seeing in the early voting out there in Nevada. But go ahead.
Yeah, and that's hard. That's hard data. We don't know how people voted, but we know Republican turnout is unprecedented. Now, the question is there some sort of theme that it finally got through to the minds of Republicans? You got to vote early, so they're starting to match them, or is this somewhat of an expansion? And we'll find out. We also don't know how bad the independents are. So I think there's elements that are true of both. I think that's why the polling is inconsistent, which is why I wouldn't put my money on anything, and which is why emotionally and strategically I think we need to prepare for either one. But I think overall it is good news that it demonstrates people are finally awake. Now we got to channel that and harness that to something. Hopefully it will reverberate down ballot. But one prediction I will say is I do not see a scenario where Trump wins and Republicans lose the House. I don't see that happening.
All right. Good stuff, my friend. Thank you very much, as always.
Take care. See you next week.
Good. See you next week. All right, guys, we close it out. What do you think?
Yeah, at the end there, people being awake, whatever is happening, I don't know that it has to do with being awake. See, that's what we really need to work on, win or lose. Be prepared either way. He said, Daniel is absolutely right, but the answer is also the same in both cases, win or lose. We cannot keep going on like this. This is entirely unsustainable. A real awakening has to happen about the fundamentals of why we got here.
Yeah, people were truly awake. We would be talking soberly about states that you would never, ever think about going Republican. And I just don't see that. Right. I'm working on, I said this to you guys off the air, and I don't know if this will ever see the light of day, but I'm working on a hypothesis depending on the results of this election and how the exit polling, as much as we can rely on that, shows how this election was won. That has to do with normies. I think we will find the answer to the question that I've been asking for the last year and a half. I don't know what a normie is. I think we might actually find the answer to that question.
We might. And they might not be the normies we thought.
I don't think if we find the answer to that question, regardless, I don't think we're going to like the answers.
Well, or
even if Trump wins.
It may not be the normies we thought. The new normies might be second-generation Hispanic dads.
That could
and
be.
Not our suburban and exurban white neighbors anymore. Those might be the new normies. That's very possible. By the way, our buddy Kyle Lamb, who used to work in the DeSantis administration down in Florida, I think he's still doing some stuff down there in the Florida GOP. But you guys know he's like researcher extraordinaire. Okay. The CDC estimates 97,000 illnesses from E. coli in the U.S. each year. They issued this public safety alert on McDonald's right after the Trump photo op due to 49 illnesses in multiple states.
See, do you remember when they tried this with Bush with arsenic in the water? And the same thing, there is actually a natural amount of arsenic. They just make crap up all the time.
49 illnesses in 10 states, and the CDC went after McDonald's for that 48 hours after they did a photo op that they didn't do. A local branch did it with Trump in Pennsylvania. Romans 8:28.